Alright guys, time to grab here back again today. Haven't enjoyed your day so far, and the plot thickens surrounding OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, Hecz Rodriguez and the Chicago Huntsmen right now. Yesterday, Jake Lucky came out with a video talking about an update on the situation, some things that he had heard regarding the team and how the CDL weren't allowing Chicago to rebrand to the Chicago OpTic, and what that might mean for Hecz potentially going to OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, NRG buying that brand, and what exactly the implications of that could be for the players, right? Would the players have to stay on Huntsmen? If a new ownership group comes in, what happens to the guys on OGLA? So many questions that are going on right now. And then later in the day, the CDL comes out with a video breaking down the roster mania stuff from the Chicago Huntsmen's perspective, what they think about that roster, and they had Dashy and Envoy on to kind of give their perspective in an interview style format. And right at the end of the video, Envoy has some very interesting things to say about exactly what's going on right now, and they tease very much in the title, OpTic Envoy, question mark, eyes emoji. Why would the CDL do that if they're simultaneously telling Hecz that he can't have the OpTic Gaming branding back? Very interesting stuff, very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave a like on the video if you guys enjoy it, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it, really helps out the channel, thank you for doing that. Before we get into things, wanted to go through this bait that was coming out on the timeline yesterday from, Hecz. So he says, you know, let's see what you get wrong this time, Scump are gonna miss you next year, Matt, etc, etc. This as well, Slasher and Kenny, trying to pick you guys up now, sorry I'm late, O'Hare is hard to navigate, and it says this as well, love the Chicago skyline tonight, can't believe I am back here. So, you know, a lot of stuff coming out. He also did this clip as well, which I'll share a little bit of, saying like Jake doesn't really know what's going on behind the scenes right now. Things are very changeable, and well, we're just going to have to wait and see and keep our hopes up, as he describes it, for Hecz to get the best out of this situation.
Whoever talks to Jake Lucky doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I promise you. So here's what I'll say. Wait. Hold your horses. Don't get your hopes up. And just wait to see what Hecz is going to do. That's all I'll say. Because the story changes legitimately every day, and that's not the last 2 weeks, that's the last 2 years. Every day the story changes. It's almost happened before, it's almost not happened, it said it was never going to happen, and then it did happen and got taken away. So no one knows. No one fucking knows. And the people that are talking about it especially don't know. So don't trust anybody except the fucking direct source.
So then this video comes out from the CDL. They talk about, you know, Maven and Merk talking about the roster move, what they think about it. Can Dashy work as a flex, like Envoy and Scump as the SMG duo? How good does that sound on paper? And then right at the end of the video, there's this clip that comes out, right? And Envoy talking about the Hecz Huntsman OpTic situation. And I'll just share this video with you guys because I think it's rather telling.
You said Hecz? Hecz did what? He bought OpTic back? No comment. No comment.
Now, of course, this stuff would have been pre-recorded, right? I imagine they did these interviews a few days ago. But at the same time, why in the world would the CDL come out and say OpTic Envoy eyes emoji in the title, as you can see right here, question mark, exclamation mark, just like in my titles. They're copying the formula. Maybe I need to start incorporating some eyes emojis as well. But you see what I'm saying, right? OpTic Gaming in the title and mentioning this in the video. This is the official CDL channel. Why would they do this if simultaneously, behind the scenes, they're telling Hecz, like, Hecz Bonta, OGLA, tried to potentially use the intellectual property from the OpTic Gaming brand to rebrand Chicago Huntsmen to something like Chicago OpTic or OpTic Gaming Chicago or whatever exactly you wanted to do. And if they're saying no to that, why are they then simultaneously saying that OpTic Envoy now is a question mark, is potentially a thing, right? And the CDL themselves teasing this, right? So what could this potentially mean? One of the things I think it might mean is I can imagine why the CDL wouldn't want the Chicago Huntsmen, their biggest brand in the league right now, to actually rebrand, right? They wouldn't want for the Huntsmen as a brand to completely disintegrate. What they may be more happy to facilitate is for OpTic Gaming Los Angeles to become the new home of Hecz Rodriguez and co. So NRG would be selling on the Chicago Huntsmen and then joining OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, or at least bringing that kind of under their umbrella. The big question mark around that is if Hecz goes over and Andy Miller and all those guys goes over to OGLA, which makes sense as well if you think about it, because Andy Miller certainly has some business interests in California, the Sacramento Shock I think it's called, and some other things going on there as well. Hecz recently bought a place out there, so there's definitely the questions right now, and it seems to make sense that those those guys would go to OGLA and bring that under the umbrella. Then the question is, could they possibly facilitate a move where these guys on the team right now, so Scump, Formal, Dashy and Envoy, actually can move over to the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles and somehow figure out a contract situation where that could work, right? Because I imagine they're currently contracted to like Chicago Huntsmen as a brand, so maybe they can figure something out where the entire team and the entire staff just move straight over to OpTic Gaming Los Angeles under the NRG, you know, kind of umbrella still, and then moves forward like that. Of course, this is entirely speculation, but I can understand why the CDL wouldn't want to necessarily allow the Huntsmen to rebrand. So, yeah, maybe the second best option is, especially if they're teasing OpTic Envoy as a thing, that then the entire team moves over to OpTic Gaming Los Angeles. And there's so many things to talk about here, right? Like what happens to the incumbent players like Slasher, Kenny, TJ, and Draza that are all currently signed? Who's their fourth going to be? Is Draza going to be a sub? Is he going to be, you know, a starting player? Who really knows right now? But what happens to them, right? Do they get picked up by the Huntsmen? Is it kind of a two-way thing? But the new investorship group coming into, well, buying out the potential Chicago Huntsmen, do they want to just kind of pick up the old OpTic Gaming Los Angeles guys? Do they want to go in a different direction? So many questions right now. And also, do you want to buy the Chicago Huntsmen if you're a new investor group, knowing that it could be like an OpTic Gaming round 2, where it's kind of a shell of its former self when the actual core of the team is no longer there? Also, at the same time, you got to think from Hector's perspective, Los Angeles is definitely a more flagship city, let's just say, for Chicago, than Chicago, for the long-term future of Call of Duty, for what they're looking to do in terms of, you know, bringing in sponsorships, and as a branding venture, Los Angeles is more the place to be than Chicago, right? So if it's possible to facilitate that, I wouldn't be surprised if Hector has that on his mind. But yes, certainly very interesting to me that the CDL themselves are teasing OpTic Envoy with all this stuff going on behind the scenes as well. A few other things to mention. So yeah, I did this tweet yesterday talking about how I just can't see a world where Hecz leaves Scump, Formal and Co, and well, Envoy of course, and Dashy, and that whole team, the whole family over at the Chicago Huntsmen, even if it means reacquiring the OpTic Gaming brand, and well, whether they join later on. Alberto over at Deserto then says, interestingly enough, a source close to the situation told us, that being Deserto, that there would be a way for Hecz to retain the current Huntsman roster and move them to OGLA if NRG does sell the Huntsman. So yeah, this seems to be something that which is potentially on the table right now. Questions, of course, around Temp, right, and TJ Halley. Can't wait to compete again, man. I miss some 4v4 CoD. We would do damage, but, you know, dollar, what's going on behind the scenes right now? Thanks to 545 for pointing this one out to me. And also, before we finish the video, I wanted to mention a few things regarding Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Yesterday, there was, well, this glitch going on where people could somehow keep playing the beta and, well, get into private match lobbies or get into custom game lobbies. And as you can see right here in the bottom left-hand corner, well, it did say CDL hardpointer on Moscow, as we'll look at in a second, but also CDL Control is an official game mode in custom games which can be selected. CDL hardpoint, so they've got all this stuff in the game right now. Maybe that's setting up for this mystery event that Attach was talking about a couple of days ago, where the pros will actually be able to play this stuff, and well, we can see how it all plays out. My well, apparently people's first impressions of CDL hardpoint on Moscow is that it doesn't necessarily play too well, and that's a worry, right, given well, all the other maps that we have in the game right now that may not necessarily be in the best state. This crone at CDL Intel also says CDL rule set isn't near finished or updated yet, but currently in the custom games, it's showing that flak is restricted, shotguns and RPGs not restricted. I do wonder if they've kind of just put this in as a placeholder, in the sense that, like, I can't see a world where flak would need to be restricted, RPGs not restricted, etc, but only beta maps and modes only, which isn't exactly ideal. And yeah, just to finish off the video, I thought this was interesting as well. United tweeted this out, some coordinates, and well, as Jake Lucky says, and we'll look in a second, do you like Chicago, eh? Because of course the question is, if the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles is acquired, as it has been, I imagine, by Hector, and he decides to move the NRG branding over to, well, OpTic Gaming Los Angeles and acquire that brand, and then divest the Chicago Huntsmen as a brand, a new ownership group would have to get in. RCDs was saying quite recently on the Stay Attached podcast that United are actually quite close to getting a spot at the start of the Black Ops 4 season before, well, franchising kicked, at the end of the Black Ops 4 season even, before franchising kicked in for Modern Warfare, and well, maybe they have the investor group to actually get in there now. And these coordinates, as you can see right here, take yourself all the way into Chicago, Illinois. So very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below on this one. And what do you think is the most likely outcome? To me right now, it makes sense that the league don't necessarily want to allow Chicago to rebrand to OpTic Gaming, but maybe they will allow the entire organization, effectively, or the entire staffing that is over at the Huntsmen, to somehow be transferred to OpTic Gaming Los Angeles. And frankly, I imagine that Hector wouldn't have gone in for this deal if he didn't think an opportunity like this could be on the table. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well and help grow the Call of Duty community. Thank you for doing that as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Top right, 2 of them. I'm helping you. Yep.
I'm holding rock.
On you. Hit me. Nice. Close. He's weak.
Spawning.
Yep,
Hold the back. I got one open. Helping you, time.
I got new spawns.
Time, one shot then.
Lambo one shot. Alright, here.
Rock. Dude, Jerry.
I'm in the back. You're good. Oh, connector.
Connector spawns, yeah.
I got time on me. Stay down. I got you. Nice.
In new. In new, then. Dude, these guys are any fraud. I'm pushing out front. Help me front.
They're probably gonna spawn out.
Yeah, front on you, front on you. Water. Water dead.
Front guys, nothing in the back. Yo, one's hitting wall. One's hitting wall. Wait, one in the back. He got around. He's dead.
Nice, good job, Chance. I have time.
He's one shot old. I think one hit wall. I'm pretty sure one hit wall. I don't have your sight.